Welcome back, everyone, towards Automation Days Asia 2021. It's time already for our second session, and it's my great pleasure to introduce a very accomplished speaker today, Eric Nguyen, who is the RPA Senior Manager at the Synergy Group in Australia. Personally, I've known Eric already for a couple of years, and I know always knows that he gives great presentations. Eric started his RPA journey already in 2017 and has delivered value to business operations through a number of different companies, either in telecommunications, customer services, project management, and IT consultant. He has over 15 years experience in managed customer service spaces, has a wealth of knowledge when it comes to RPA. And one of his other roles, which I'm personally quite proud of, is that he's also an accomplished service automation framework ambassador. Eric, it's really a great pleasure to have you today. I'm going to get mute myself right now, and then I'll hand over to you. But before I do that, just a quick reminder for everyone that if you would like to engage during the session or would like to ask questions to Eric to go into more detail about any particular topic, please use the Q&A, and at the end of the session, we will start the moderation of questions. Eric, it's a real pleasure to have you. Thanks so much, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jan. Can you hear me?
Absolutely, we can hear you perfectly.
Excellent, thank you. Let me just quickly bring up my slide deck. Please advise when you see it.
Yeah, it's up.
Excellent, thank you. Well, good morning, everyone. I assume, or afternoon, some place like in Australia. My name is Eric Nguyen, and it is my pleasure to be here to join this event and basically share with you some of my lessons I've learned along the way, as well as the work that I've done recently. I want to share, and also, last but not least, thank you, Jan, for your nice work, and I'm quite impressed with how you bring everyone together for this event. So now back to the conversation of automation. When I was invited for the event, the topic around the theme around automation days in Asia is really struck me hard. And but when I look at it, I see that actually technology, especially in Asia, is just one aspect of the conversation. The real conversation is more around the value out of it and the actual impact that we make use of the technology. And then secondly, when I look back at Asia, I realized that COVID recovery is still a thing, and actually it is the single biggest challenge to any organization. So when I try to bring together a few elements together, I realized that COVID-19 recovery is actually the part that bring us all together, whether you are in operation, in finance, or you are in technology space. It is no longer just about the technology, the glorious future we can have from technology, but we do have a real challenge at hand right here, right now. It is about the recovery. So it is pretty much the reason why I joined and why I put together this the slide deck for today to share with everyone. And ultimately, I like to ask you a question for yourself. How do you make the most out of your available resource right now for the COVID recovery at your organization today, not tomorrow or a year's time? For me, I think the three key factors that you can look into, it is the time that you have right now, the people, and the technology. These are the three fundamental elements for you and your organization to move ahead throughout this challenging time. So quickly around the calendar for today, I'll go through. It is quite like a heavy pack, but I'll try to focus on the part that I think matter the most. So we basically will go through the context of COVID recovery, especially in ASEAN. And then we move into the enterprise automation, the concept, some key concept, the part around the business aspect of automation, especially the valuation, like Jan mentioned earlier around the benefit. I'll share some best practice as well as my observation. Last but not least, I do share some case study so that you can have a look at your own time later on. So let's start with the in the news. As you can see, basically when I scan through the news for this presentation this today, I've learned that in Asia, especially in ASEAN region or even to APAC, we have a set of three kind of like category for in terms of recovery, road to recovery. The majority of country are planning for the reopening in the last quarter of 2021. Some they're already in partly reopening stage, but it is a challenging position to whether they can move forward to join Singapore or they should wait and see. Um, the thing that struck me hard was because personally I'm from Vietnam, so I learned in the hard way in terms of loss, in terms of enormous challenge for organization there, for people there. It's just not numbers. It's not just about the case day by day, but it is about, let's say, for Vietnam. When I look into the news, let's say Nike, they lost about 50% of their manufacturing capacity on certain product category. So it means literally millions of people in the country got impacted by that, just by that numbers. And the same things for places like Malaysia, where the definitely the second wave of COVID really struck hard to every aspect of society. So I think that is the thing that's quite common across the region. And when we actually look into the COVID-19 journey to recovery, back in 2020, the hypothesis is very nice and clear that, okay, we're going to go through, let's say, according to Gartner, they believe that we're going to have three phase, respond, recover, and renew. In Australia, we have the same kind of aspect where we say probably it'll be about 6 months for business to adapt and about another 6 to 12 months, literally now, for the country to recover. However, the reality hit hard, as you can see on the page with the numbers there. Literally, like say in ASEAN, the PMI index is literally show that we have a real challenge in terms of manufacturing capabilities. We shrink in terms of, let's say, places like Malaysia, Indonesia, or Thailand. Definitely, the economic growth is the GDP is also got a huge impact. It means one thing: lower spending power from the buyers in the region. So I would say it means the organization in the region experience not just the challenge in terms of the recovery, but actually looking ahead, the demand is also weak to start with. As I mentioned earlier around the resource that you have right now at hand for business recovery, we have time, people, and technology. Time, I think it is the most sacred resource right now. Um, we basically running out of time. When I talked to a couple of CFO in Asia and New Zealand early this year with another conference, they basically share the same concern around cash. The impact of COVID is just substantial. So it's mean we're running out of time for the business to actually running in certain capacity. In terms of people as well, the change that COVID bring forward, it makes our organization need to adapt to the available resource that we have now and technology as well. If we just stick to the same mantra of multi-years digital transformation, I'm afraid that some will be too late for for those change. Okay, so now that is pretty much the context of my sharing for today from business and social perspective. With enterprise automation, as Jan gave you some earlier uh, key point around the technology, the concept. Here, I just share with you my own interpretation of robotic process automation or automation in general, how it actually align with process and business operation. On the screen, as you can see, I present a very simple graph to show that in the end, for any business, it is all about input and outcome with the process in the middle. In the process, you might use human or you might use machine with a certain way of turn the input into outcome. However, I have to call out that it was the old days of thinkings where the outcome was basically that is the contractual agreement that we provide the client. However, from the client's perspective, they are human. There's a gap, and in marketing, I've learned that we call it a perceived value. So it's a way above and beyond the functional benefit that we, as the service provider or manufacturer, promise and commit to deliver. The client, they want something more, but sometimes they don't know about it, and they're always in the look for that kind of like perceived value to fulfill with the functional benefit. So I think that's the challenge that a lot of business, especially for enterprise, to realize that hang on, we actually we do as we say, but there is a gap, and they don't know how to turn themselves into position to turn things around. And I call it going the extra mile, where you actually put the client at the front and center, and then start to working backward to align with the outcome that we promise and we deliver. And it align when we look at it, you can see that from my perspective, the automation is actually can do two things to any business: save money and make money. Save money in terms of productivity throughout those business continuous improvement, and make money in terms of those value added works or the perceived value from the client. We fulfill it and we turn it into revenue and sustainable growth. So automation in general, it is all about operation. It is about you optimize what you do well, and also look for the opportunity from that kind of like a human aspect of customer, where they look for the perceived value. The case study I put for on the screen is just to illustrate how Fujitsu in the ICT managed services, they put into an automation to automate a process to basically manage clients' license, like for example, SAP license, for example. They're not just finished at the productivity part, where they'll just replicate exactly how a worker will go through checklist after checklist to consolidate and update and notify the client. But actually, they go for the extra mile, where they actually, as you can see from the details there, they look for the part where they can de-risk for the client. They can lower the operation cost and actually pass it back to the client for saving. And also in overall, they bring it into like a better reporting system. So as you can see, actually with the value added work, it is not about creativity. I think it's only 1% creativity there, but it is about 99% of hardworking and listening. The second part I'd like to share with you, when you think of automation, especially enterprise automation, it is about the shift from customer expectation, like Jan's earlier example around the like of, like say, Netflix or a Grab. I see it from a different aspect. I call it from the traditional, basically the buyer or the customer that has been spoiled with choice over the years. So now they expect experience and instant with tangible impact. So basically, they move away from pick two out of cost, scope, and quality, and then move into the space where it is called do more with less. It means you will have like in a way I call it a diamond kind of like shape of rather than triangle. You move into this kind of like piece of diamond where you talk about cheaper, smarter, better, and faster with human-centered design. The on the right hand side, I found that a piece from McKinsey. They is quite aligned with this kind of like do more with less concept, where they elaborate some practical activity that you can try out right here, right now. Last but not least, in terms of enterprise, when we talk about enterprise, we're not just talking about one process. We talk about the whole value chain. We talk about things like Michael Porter value chain. However, right now, I've learned that especially in ASEAN, digital transformation was become increasingly the talk of the town. However, with COVID-19 context, I can tell you that the funding will be conversation around funding priorities is going to be different. Um, can we afford to wait for benefit in 2 years' time, 1 year's time, or we want it to be in the next quarter? That is a real questions. So yeah, so last but not least, I want to share before we jump into automation or key concept. I want to share a little bit of my personal experience um, around the adoption of automation at an enterprise. So about 2 years ago, I got a chance to work with an organization, $1 billion business in Australia and New Zealand. So basically, to my surprise, their GM attend my speak in Sydney. And after my speak, they reach out for me, and they basically they were so happy with the way I um, unbundle the whole things, the myth around automation and how it can be embedded into operation for enterprise. And they basically the conversation from them was around, hey, our organization have done automation program twice and it all failed. Was led by IT. Can you help us? And then the conversation fast forward from that conversation, we went to the part where actually me and my team we invest our time and effort to sit down with their local branch and work out, like I say, one pilot. The thing is around like the saving, the ROI. I'm not quite into it, but I see it from the business operation. You think about purchase to order process. This is critical, and now they only have one person actually to do it, and she has to do it on site. She can't do it at home. It is sensitive information. The client base was all government clients, so there are certain aspects that they can't move around. That's number one. Number two, the manual working hours is just like nonstop. And the scary part was they have about 37 client, and each of the client will have different kind of like timeline for the company to issue invoice. And it was like for me, it was like, oh, hang on, we have a many to many relationship here, and in the middle we have just one person. And I honestly I asked the ladies, hey, what if we did not issue the invoice? Would there be any consequence? And she looked at me and she said yes. And then she silent for a moment, and then she explained um, the company will get penalty from the client because of the lateness, as well as their subcontractor because of yeah. So it was like a very delicate relationship there. So as a result, I from that conversation, I see it. Hang on, it is extremely critical. However, when we actually talk to the IT department where they assign a PM for this work, she basically say, no, we can't because of their calculation in terms of ROI. We do not see that a potential saving of zero point 0.5 to 1 FTE would help, because at the end of the day, the lady's still there with her team. So what's the point? However, during when I look back, I think in the city I'm in now, Canberra, we experienced the latest lockdown lasts for almost 2.5 months, and before that, we do have restriction in terms of attending office work. I could not stop but think about the ladies and her work there. She literally, how could she deliver the outcome under this crunch time? So it's come to the that's why I put the caption here is why automation. It should be about why not and what if rather than just the ROI number. And next we will get into the details of those ROI and why I think valuation is way more critical than just a few FTE saving. Okay, so a few concepts here, key concept. In terms of robotic process automation, this is the way I translate it to my Telstra fellow workers across the global customer service group, 8 countries, over 100 teams. So I explain to people that more or less robotic process automation, it's just all about we deploy a software robot that transfer data across application and apply business rules on the fly as a user. So they do not see it from the part where it is about like repetitive process, non-value added work. Uh, that kind of like conversation now shift to the part where say, oh, all right, so data in terms of telecom, it means okay, customer information. It means the contract the customer is in, the request that they want, and then we move across application. Of course, enterprise, you talk about multi application that handle the transaction behind the scenes. And on top of that, the business rule is the part that actually highlight why we have people around, because they understand the context and figure thing out, solve the problem. Not just about like say a simple copy and paste 100 times. And then from the technology translate into a digital worker, I think it is the key, another key concept that organization should look into when think about the current challenge and think ahead of like say the next 5 years or 10 years. So digital workers is in a way, it is not just about the process that you can see, you can feel, and you automate it. It is about, okay, so if what else after that? The digital worker is just like basically a capacity where you will be able to manage those automated process. You will be able to make use of it and the control. So moving on from the concept of automation, I'd like to introduce automation ready framework. It's just a framework that I built at my time at Telstra. So I see very much in line with Jan's comments about data-driven operation. I see that automation actually doesn't start and end with process. For me, process is like you have recipe. The real ingredients is from data. It's just like you're a chef. You you ask 10 chefs about how to make a steak. You will see that they will gradually they will come and talk about the same ingredient, but the process or their recipe is slightly different. So it means they are more in terms of making a perfect steak than just the recipe is the data and also system, or you can think of like say the way of cooking that they might use. So for me, very simple. As you can see on the screen, I set it up as some sort of like a very simple guideline for people to say, okay, is it like an immediate candidate for value assessment, or it is a potential candidate, or we should not touch it at all with robotic process automation. Um, this is the part I think it is absolutely critical in terms of building up the business case and truly build up the buy-in and also the belief and the excitement from across the organization. You talk about business automation, there are two aspects of it: tactical value and strategic value. A lot of the time people, because of the silo mindset, they just look at the tactical value, and then you have this end up with a situation. You will compare apples and a diamond. For example, from let's say a farmer perspective, definitely orange is far more valuable than a diamond. However, in terms of let's say business, diamond, sometimes you can say, yeah, it is a better investment. So over here I share with you just some sort of like high level way of attach the value of an automated process along the value chain of the organization. At the bottom of the page, I have to remind to emphasize the part around don't show an executive your bots and its transaction. It happens literally everywhere I go in terms of automation program. For the first 3 meeting, yes, if you show the bots, these kind of like automated operations, it is quite interesting to see the reaction. But after the 3rd meeting, people will start asking about what does it mean, what is the impact, how much saving, and also how would it get my job easier. And also at the end of the day, for the CEO, he or she will want to see the outcome from the organization perspective, not just like say how fast you can process a specific like say like invoice. What's the point if you can process invoice in like say a split of second, but then it would take the same amount of time for you to actually pay your supplier. This slide is basically just to give you a hint of how automation is actually now part of the modern workforce. It is no longer just a technology. It's no longer just a use case. I have to emphasize, we need to step away from the idea of tell me about a use case and let me think about it. It is actually now happening around the world, especially in Europe. The level of integration between the technology and the businesses is it's almost like invisible, and people start taking it for granted. This slide, I think it is important to set the scene here. Is basically what I have here for you. It is not from the automation technology perspective only, but actually I see it from the perspective of in terms of operation, in terms of digital transformation, in terms of enterprise architect, IT enterprise architect. I see that certain elements start moving around. So I think it is this roadmap, just to put it into a perspective. And this roadmap built out the 3 kind of like a big ask from the very top. Number 1, it is about the value for money. What would we do first will bring us the most out of the lot. Value for money. Number 2, it is about time. We cannot afford time for a multi-years program where we can't really demonstrate and respond to the market, especially the shift in the customer space. And last but not least, it is about the collective effort, the organic growth of the enterprise, not just like automation on its own. So that's why you see I put in the starting point with process automation and then integrated service automation. Process automation, as Jan mentioned earlier, it is about certain part in the from the end-to-end journey that you can automate, you can gain the benefit of productivity or value-added work. With integrated service automation, it was a step further than that. It is like a process where you actually start from finance, you move to HR, and then you move to IT. For example, onboarding, like you have a new staff. Definitely, there is a lot of process in place in order to get the person ready for her or his first day at the organization. So it is an extremely complex business challenge right now, and automation can help to bring those, like say, moving part together for like an immediate gain for the organization. Next, it is about the low code, no code, or virtual assistant automation, especially around, let's say, the launch of Microsoft Power Automate. on Office 365. I believe a lot of you now, if you use Microsoft, you'll be able to leverage this capacity. But from an enterprise perspective, I think that unless you establish a solid ground for governance for big hitter, you should not embrace the low code no code immediately. Because why? Number one, it is about data control, data privacy, governance. Number two, it is about benefit realization. Sure, if we encourage everyone to just invest into this low code no code, we will end up with silo process that we don't really we miss the opportunity to bring everyone together and optimize the way we work. We just say, okay, go ahead and do whatever you want to to um, to make your job easier, but not necessarily everyone. And then we talk about enterprise platform building automation like SAP, ServiceNow, or Salesforce. Over the past 12 to 18 months, they have bought automation startup and then uplifting their capacity. So it is very interesting to see it. The reason why I put it up there is at the number 4 is basically to line up with the digital transformation. Normally, it will take years, maybe about 2 years to fully roll out at an enterprise. So that is why we put it there. Last but not least, it is about the enterprise integrated automation ecosystem. The key point here is when you automate certain part of your operation, you need to be able to have the clarity and visibility of these for control, for funding, for improvement, and for drive to the common goal of the organization. So moving away from this slide, I do have a couple of case study that you can find from the appendix. This slide next, it is about the operation model or operating model for digital worker. I put it up there as just hypothesis. You have two choice, IT-led operating model or business-led operating model, self-explanatory. However, from my own experience, the reality is much more complex than that. So you will have four kind of like pillar in order to set the right fit for purpose operating model with this new digital workforce: vision, benefit realization, ownership, and funding model. Why benefit realization and ownership is important for funding model and vision? Let's see from next. Over here, the strategy around digital worker, around automation. The three key objectives, it is about auditability, security, compliance, and performance. I think that now with modern organization, compliance, risk, and control, it is becoming extremely critical. Sometimes it is even more than the deployment of certain pieces of technology or change. The in terms of risk assessment, it's break down to this is more like a two aspect of risk assessment, from organizational risk and technology risk. I think it is quite common nowadays for enterprise to go through this stage. Okay, now I'd like to spend some time with you around the valuation of automation beyond the ROI. Why it is why I would say so around ROI. As you can see on the screen, basically a survey from in the UK back in 2017. They asked people around or participants around the two questions around business value and cost saving aspect of automation. And to their surprise, they will see that when people talk about business value, they feel more comfortable comparing when they talk about cost saving. And the reason why is here. There's two approach nowadays in terms of automate process. A lot of the time, people will just jump straight into the conclusion with the reduction of labor costs, FTE, or labor hours saving. However, The other approach now is more and more organization they try to get into. It is about the balance scorecard, where actually we line it up with the end-to-end value stream mapping and the customer journey, to basically say, okay, if you do something upstream, any improvement, any benefit that you can measure or you can harvest downstream. So that kind of like balance scorecard is a more sustainable way to present the impact and a good story rather than just the labor costs. The next on this slide, I want to highlight and reflect back to the example earlier around the metaphor of an orange and a diamond. As you can see, this is a screenshot I took from the US Department of Agriculture just last year. Literally on the same organization, even the same business division, you will see huge difference in terms of the common value they put down here. It is the labor hours saving. Like say, same agency, different division, it could be up to 120 times difference. And then same agency, but similar division, you have 10 times different in labor hour saving. When I look at it, it just come up with, hit me hard in terms of business insight, the context. It is critical. It is absolutely true. Should you show me the meaning of those numbers rather than just the hours that I save? For example, if I automate a 10 hours for, like say, an executive like a GM in term for his reporting that he have to prepare and generate, if I save that person 10 hours, it will be extremely more valuable than maybe 100 hours that I save from like say a team that just basically do the data entries. Why? Because I would say the decision making is far more impactful with the 10-hour saving. This slide is about the just basically align with how we make use of the end-to-end operation journey with value stream mapping. It is a great technique that I put in place for a couple of clients, especially for complex process. Okay, so now with the takeaway, it is just just a reminding of the 5 key things that I guess critical that I've learned over the time with enterprise automation. The business as usual is not the way forward for the COVID-19 recovery. It won't help you to make the most out of your available time, your people, and the current technology. So you need to think about expand, like push the envelope out of just tick the box with productivity, but think about going the extra mile for value added work, especially right now when it is the demand is low, the spending power is also in a stage of recovery. We need to retain clients. We need to retain whatever we have right now. So it only happens with going with the extra mile, not just get the job done. And also it is about embedding the concept of do more with less into the everyday practice, cheaper, better, smarter, faster, and put human-centered design at the front and center. Secondly, it is about the concept of robotic process automation. It in the end, if you look at it as a way to just move data across your organization application and apply same business rules as a user, you will see that actually you can empower your people because they know the business inside out. These business rules are critical. It can help you to optimize it, call out gap, and de-risk. And then basically the automate process becoming just a way to put those knowledge together, and you can measure the outcome literally immediately. Next, enterprise automation. It is truly about the business capacity. It is not about just buying off-the-shelf product and it solve a set of problem. It is a new way of work. It is all about collaboration across business. in order to drive the evolution of those business rules to align closely with the change in the market, as well as the innovation part from within the organization. In terms of operating and governance framework for digital workers or the business capacity, I would say it really has to be a fit for purpose conversation. It is not about like say who own it, whether it's IT or business model, and then just copy and paste the model. It simply won't be sustainable. And last but not least, valuation of automation beyond ROI, or really put a strategic view and think hard of how you reinvent your organization and the value you offer to client is essential. So yeah, so that is all I want to share today. This is the case study that you can find from my slide deck that I'm sure Jan will make it available after this. So yeah, please go ahead with your question. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Eric. And let me first of all say that this was once again an excellent presentation in which I actually learned quite a lot. You know, I'm a frameworks guy, so I absolutely love your readiness framework. I think that's a key insight for me. We still have some time to moderate some questions? I've already seen a couple of questions come in, and for people who still have questions, please use the Q&A box to do that. One question that came in is you mentioned human-centered design, and I also saw that in the center of your model. Can you elaborate a little bit more on how this ties in with automation?
Excellent. Okay. Well, this is rather than give you like say an answer around like theory, I'll tell you the true story that I experienced my time with Telstra. So basically, a team within my center, they look after conference for business, and they call it teleconference, and every day on the dot, 6:30 until 7 o'clock, someone from the team will show up in the office and download multiple kind of like file data point from mainframe, and they download it, they open it, and they will go through line by line to transcribe it into like a master schedule, and also set reminder for certain like basically work allocation for team members to follow through and facilitate over the days. It was a great example for automation, so I jump in, help them out. However, at the time that I basically roll it out for the team, to my surprise, it wasn't a well received kind of like a reception. People kind of like feel like hesitate, and I ask just me, say, hey, this is what we've done. I make it happen for you guys, so you don't have to manually download and do it. You just have to not even click a button. Everything happened ready for you. And then she told me that, well, Eric, it works, but then it still doesn't work. We have half an hour to get things done, but the main part is around the visibility, and everyone, when they look at the master schedule, they will have to manually set up a reminder on the Outlook, and they will basically have to be around the desk at that time to facilitate the conversation. If they forget about it, they will miss it. And basically, the consequence was, yeah, the teleconference was late, or Telstra will lost that kind of revenue from it. So the human-centered design aspect here was, as soon as I learned about it, I said, all right, so automation in, like say, contact center perspective, it is also about what people actually use with the information and the outcome. So I had to literally do it on my own research to say, okay, is there any way I can push the information into their mobile? That is my the ask that I pushed for myself. I figured out to use Trello as a way to bypass the red tape from the organization, because it's still as a like a proof of concept. And as soon as they see that, oh, actually, the automation helped them to basically get things ready without a click. And actually now every single members will see on their Trello account the assignment for the date, and then everyone else also can have that same visibility. It was literally truly the enlightenment moment for me in terms of
Yeah,
automation and user design.
I can definitely imagine that. That's an excellent approach. Good, Eric. Unfortunately, we're getting towards the end of our time. I also see some comments coming in from a lot of people that are saying that this was an excellent presentation, and I fully second that. So I want to once again really thank you for all of the great work that you've been doing on this. It's always really a true pleasure to work with you. And I want to once again thank you so much for this great presentation. I see all the likes and claps coming in, so a lot of people really enjoyed your presentation. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you, Jan. Thank you,
Good.
everyone.
Yeah, we're going to close this session right now. Get ready for our next speaker. So a quick coffee break. At 11 o'clock, Thomas Gadzinski from UiPath is going to come up, and he's going to take us into the hyper-automation journey. So stay tuned for that very interesting presentation. And once again, Eric, thank you so much for your wonderful presentation today.
The pleasure is mine. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.